Hey, and welcome once again to the MESHfair live artist talks and tours for Decentraland Art Week 2024. It's my absolute pleasure to be with you again for the final of our 5th live artist tours for this cycle of MESHfair 2024. I have with me 3 incredible artists who have created some of the 32 MESHfair cubes that you see floating within Decentraland Art Week Plaza. If you're listening in right now on YouTube, Twitter, or LinkedIn, you may know that you can join us in world at decentraland.org to be part of our live interactive tour. You don't need a headset. You can dive in through your web browser, decentraland.org. And we're currently at Decentraland Art Week Plaza, which is at coordinate 6161. You will see a huge banner at decentraland.org to jump into all the Art Week festivities. So join us in the main plaza, and I'm going to be talking you through this live interactive tour. With us today, we have 3 artists and also Kenza from Unit London. She's one of the 15 international galleries, arts writers, curators that were part of curating the 32 artists of MESHfair this year. So Kenza's going to be joining us as we walk around these incredible installations and giving her reactions and talking about the process of being behind an interactive experience like MESHfair. So if you can, join us in Art Week Plaza. We're at 61, and the first cube we're going to be jumping in today is the cube by Linda Lowe. Linda is actually joining us via satellite from, Sri Lanka. So we're going to be not having Linda's face, but she is walking through a tour with us as we stream live from Decentraland. So if you're in world, we are going to be going to Linda's cube, which is 6563. You may know that you can open the chat window at the bottom left-hand side of your screen. You can write in the coordinates, which are 6563, and we're going to be jumping through that coordinate. So if I type them into the chat box now, it becomes a hyperlink. We can click on the hyperlink, and it's going to be taking us through to Laminote by Linda Lowe. Linda, as we teleport, would you like to introduce yourself to everyone listening in right now?
Hello, everybody. My name's Linda Lowe, and I'm a visual artist from Melbourne, Australia. But I'm joining you from Sri Lanka tonight because I'm at the end of a 3-week holiday of travelling around Sri Lanka. It sounded exotic that I was joining you by satellite. Actually, I'm just joining you by Wi-Fi on my phone. But but I have yet to see my own cube in action, so I can talk you through my ideas in making it, and I can't wait to see it next week when I'm back on my computer and able to view it. But essentially the cube is a set of very fine curved layers. You don't realise there's multiple layers when you arrive in the cube, but there's a sense, I'm hoping, of towering over the visitor. And then with the theme of explore, I wanted people to navigate around or through. Some of them you can go through, others you have to go around. So the idea is that there's these seeming obstacles that you have to find your way through. And then when you reach the back of the cube and turn around, I'm hoping that the seemingly apparent obstacles have disappeared. So it's sort of this idea that, you know, layers and obstructions are factors of our mind, where we are our own worst enemies, and there are many obstructions and limitations that we have in our lives that maybe aren't there after all. So that's the gist of the ideas behind the project. The layers were made in Gravity Sketch, which, as many people will know, is a virtual reality app. So there's gesture and bodily movement in the work itself as well, which is something that's been probably a part of my work for a long time. And the textures and imagery has been recycled and reinterpreted from imagery that is basically collected, made myself over time, with the original source material being light-based objects like puddles or mirrors or cracks or reflections. So I have this process of distorting and transforming that kind of source material, and it ends up in my work in a 3D cube in Decentraland. So I'm open for questions if people are
So
wanting
I
to
don't
ask me
know
any.
whether you can see this on your phone, but I'm taking pictures and I'm walking around your cube, and absolutely we have these towering textures above us and stopping our path. And then when we do get to the final side of the cube, I'm get stuck in a texture right now. If we get then to the other side of the cube and we look back, then those textures have absolutely disappeared and the cube seems empty.
Thank you. That's great. Yes, I can see it. It's about like 1 inch tall and about 6 centimeters wide. So it's great to see as a experience on my phone. But as I said, I can't wait to. But yeah, fabulous to see you all in there too.
And you can
Yeah.
probably see that the community, as always, are interacting with the installation. So we had someone set up a swing emote already on one of the textures. We've had people dancing between the textures. It's an incredibly effective way of exploring these different layers, Linda. Where did you said it was about the sense of things not being barriers that we can walk through? Where did this idea originally come from for you?
Um, Well, it's probably a theme that's been with me for a long time. I mean, I have an interest in a meditation school, so a lot of the thoughts and ideas that come into my practice are based on the nature of mind and what is the mind and how does it trip us up. Um, the idea of the sort of accumulation of charged events that happen to us from childhood onwards, what our parents say to us and what our peers and siblings say to us and do to us, we carry that load with us forever. So yeah, it's probably through the meditation school that I was involved in that I sort of came to recognize that these are things that are separate from what might be the nature of mind. And it's interesting being in Sri Lanka actually, because these discussions come out almost as a daily matter of fact part of conversation, which is really interesting in that it's not really a part of everyday conversation in many of our worlds. But yeah, it sort of comes down to the meditation school interests and an intrinsic interest in psychology that I've had for a long time. And layers have been with me from the time that I was doing abstract painting, for example. I've got a lot of past works that are based on layers on top of each other.
I'm going to bring our two curators in right now. Kenza, are you within the cube itself in Decentraland as well?
Yes, I am. Well, now I'm facing the wall, as you can see, because I'm trying to be on both this live and the Decentraland, but I was running around. It's just fantastic, and it's it reminds me. So, Linda, I know a little bit of about your work, and I know that some of your work has like this sort of distortion to them, like photographs or video, and I think it's interesting to kind of see that again in those abstract walls.
Yeah.
I just love what you were saying about the perception and how we see things, and sometimes we see things that are not here. Um, and I don't know, it speaks a lot about what I've been working on lately and the topics of conversation that I've had about mental health, about digital art and mental health. And I just think um, these actually speaks to me because sometimes our subconscious works in very mysterious ways. And exactly, we're going to see things that aren't here, or do not see things that are actually here. So that
Mhm.
he plays on both of these concepts. And the fact that these are abstract forms actually allows us to interpret the way that we want to. And the colors also, I think, play a little bit of a role in here. But yeah, very surprised of just like running around and just bumping into this huge sculpture in the middle. Or that's what I see, right? I see a sculpture like that, this big rock, which doesn't allow me to see through, but if I just walk through it, then I can. So that concept between space and, you know, what's physically here and what's not physically here. And it's very funny to speak about that because we're in a completely digital space where actually nothing is really here.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very fun to like think about that. And, you know, hearing myself talk about it, I seem like a crazy person, but it does make sense when you look at the work and just like walk around. But yeah, lovely.
Thank you. Yes, and I love the. I also really respond to. I mean, we all know that digital isn't nothing. You know, we know that it has the infrastructure and all that so on behind it. But of course, there is the idea. I'm intrigued by the idea of art that is effectively nothing. Yeah, I just think that's because to me the mind. Yeah, that there's a lot of parallels I think in this whole idea of emptiness and what really is there in the ground of being. Wow, the screen's going berserk. Does it go flash with everybody else's screen, or is it just on my phone?
It's me taking photos. So it's this strange thing that there's an integral camera in the screen. So, and I've realized that screenshots, I've lost some from previous tours. So I'm starting to use the integral camera in Decentraland to take shots of a virtual world with a virtual camera. So the flash you see is a virtual camera flash in the virtual world.
Wonderful. Yeah, I love it.
Alice, I would love to bring you in as well. I think you just joined us. Would you like to say who you are and how you're connected with MESHfair? Alice, I think you're on mute. Let me just see if I can unmute you. There you go.
I think now hi everyone. Thank you so much, Bai, for bringing me in. And it's excited to meet everyone online and almost in person. I'm a curator. I work right now with a Serpentine Gallery in London, but also I'm curating exhibition. I'm based in Los Angeles, and I'm mostly curating exhibitions here. Right now, I'm working on our Fraser exhibition together with my co-curator Jamison Edgar, and the exhibition called Erotic Codex. So I'm researching a lot of the idea of artificial intimacy and how you can actually build intimacy with the object or build intimacy online, and curating and like actually judging the selection of the MESHfair was quite interesting because I was trying to do it very thoughtfully and not just go through images and like reacting on the images, but actually read the concepts and understand what artists are trying to say and what topics are they exploring. So I think my main goal is actually seeing how it comes to life. It's really fascinating to see how, Linda, you were able to build this world that like completely takes you out from your room and just like put you in this like colorful landscape. And I wonder actually hear more from other artists, because I also know Lauren is here and I voted for you. So congratulations. And yeah, just excited to engage more on the idea of artificial intimacy and actually hear what topics interest you, not just like from visual point of view, but actually from the point of research and engagement.
It's great to have you here, Alice. We are at the moment, if anyone's joining us live right now, we've got about 300 people joining us live across YouTube, Twitter, and LinkedIn right now. If you're one of those people, please do think about joining us in Decentraland through decentraland.org to start joining us within the cubes themselves and walking this tour of 4 of the interactive MESHfair cubes that are part of Decentraland Art Week 2024. Kenza, before we leave this cube, can you kind of say how your role is developing right now as well at Unit London?
Yeah, of course. One important thing, Unit London is now called Unit only. It's a recent development of the gallery. Yeah, I've been with Unit for the past 3 years. As soon as we actually ventured into Web3 and digital. I am my official role is head of community, but I've been doing a lot of things, and I love to say it's head of community with a big C because I throughout those years I connected a lot with artists, a lot with collectors, so it's been a lot of relationship building, and I was able to discover so many great artists. And together with the team, we've worked on the programming of the digital department of the gallery for the past 2.5 years, actually, to be more accurate. And yeah, recently, why I mentioned earlier mental health and digital art is because we had a booth at Art Dubai dedicated to Krista Kim. And a lot of those conversation came up while we were there. So this speaks a lot to me, what Linda has done somehow. But yeah, I was very surprised by the quality of the art that was submitted for this fair. And I also voted for Lauren among other amazing artists, but I'm really looking forward to discussing her work and discovering the others, because this is actually the first time that I went in the Decentraland. So, I mean, not my first time to Decentraland, but for the fair, yes. So very exciting to, discover the rest of the work.
It's brilliant to have you both here. And Linda, would anything we should be leaving your cube with? What emotion or experience would you like everyone that's in there right now to take out as we jump to our next destination?
Well, I think I've always wanted to inspire awe and wonder. So I don't know if that's happening, but yeah, I think it's amazing how Decentraland can create that sense of scale. I don't see it necessarily on my phone right now. That's where I can't wait till I see the cubes next week. But yeah, perhaps, hopefully, I've inspired some people to enjoy exploring and feel that sense of awe.
Well, Aline, I know that Lauren's in here with us. Sid, I think you're in us with us as well, and BJ. Like, what are you feeling in this environment as we jump now to the next? What do you think you're going to take away?
So I just want to say I love it. Like it's really nice. It does have a really nice sense of scale. Like the memory it evokes for me is playing like the parachute game as like a primary school student, where they have like the parachute like waving. Did anyone else play this? Is this just me? Okay.
I want to play it. I want to play it.
The idea of like big kind of billowing fabric and being sort of surrounded. And I love how you've kind of used the medium to like with the colliders, for example, you don't know which barriers you can just walk through and which ones you have to walk around. And then when you get to the other side and it's all like transparent, it's really good use of 3D.
Thank you.
So yeah, that's my review.
The idea of billowing cloth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had something similar. It kind of reminded me of like blanket forts that you build as a kid, and sort of making these mazes of blankets that you get lost inside of. And I thought it was really clever the way that you use this sort of, that it only renders on one side so that it appears that the room is empty when you get to the other side. This is a really really simple, elegant, feature that you used. I think it's really beautiful.
Thank you, both of you. Yeah, I love those childhood connections.
Go on. I was just going to say, I could feel like massive kind of claustrophobia and then nothing, and almost like, did that even happen? Sort of the concepts that you were describing about, this was all in my, things can all be in your mind, and you can overcome this sort of stuff through, how you perceive things, was really kind of the main direction that I got out of all of this.
Oh, it's we could stay here. This is the problem I have with these tours, that we could stay here talking about this cube for much longer. But I know, Linda, you've got to go. We're going to be jumping now to the next cube. Thank you
Well, I'm
so
going to
much.
jump with you. I'm going to stay here as long as I can. But
Awesome.
yeah, thank you so much for everyone for being here in my cube. I can't wait to be in there myself next week. And it's
Thank you
great
so
to be
much for
chatting with
joining
you.
us. We're going to be jumping now. If you are in world, I'm typing the next coordinate, which is the cube by Lauren Moffatt. We're going to be jumping now to 6067. So if you're new to Decentraland, all you need to do is click that blue link that's in the chat box. You can see it on my screen right there. So click on 6067, and that's going to transport us with my computer. I've got the right mouse. We could transport us to Blue Horse, I Thought We Were Meeting Here by Lauren Moffatt. Lauren, would you like to introduce yourself as we jump across the metaverse to your installation?
Yeah, thank you. Also, thanks for having me. Thanks for having me as part of MESHfair. Thanks to the curators for choosing my work. I was really excited to be part of this. And yeah, thanks for the confidence in me to build something here. I'm an artist originally from Australia, but I'm based in Spain. And I'm normally working with VR and AR and immersive narratives and immersive environments. So a lot of 3D work. I work a lot with physical making that I then digitize, and then sometimes pass that back into something physical and then back to digital, in order to get something that sort of seems like it doesn't really belong in the digital world or in the physical world, that it's sort of got one foot on each side of the screen. And in this case, I was interested to take part in this because for me, it's quite a challenge to work with the limitations that you have in Decentraland. You know, you can't use a lot of resolution in the geometry, so you can't have a lot of polygons in the world, and you also can't use really high resolution textures. And these are things that I sort of fall back on a lot in my work. You know, I like to have a lot of detail, and I like to be able to zoom right in on things. And the fact of not being able to do that, I think it's kind of an interesting way to get me out of my comfort zone. And also, I saw some of the work from last year, and I was super inspired by what people are doing. And the community here seems really, really great. And so it's, again, just really excited to be here. What I ended up making is this sort of strange world that sort of like encapsulates a sort of moment of confusion or a moment, and it sort of came to me because of some experiences that I'd had in Decentraland before, and it's actually happening to me today. I'm actually in the room, but the room is empty right now. I can't see anybody else here. It's like the same thing that's happened to me many times before, and that's why I called it. I thought we were supposed to be meeting here, because I don't understand how I always end up in this other parallel universe where nobody is in Decentraland. And it's one of these things that it's sort of like it feels like a dream world for me, some of these sort of metaverse virtual realms, because it doesn't quite behave like physical reality, but it refers to it. And there are also obviously things that you can do in virtual worlds, like make horses run in circles in the middle of a space, and sort of have a frame that's sort of hovering and doesn't quite make sense geometrically. And so these were all sort of things that I was taking when I sort of started making, and then I really worked very sort of in a very automatic way as I was building this. I used some old painted textures and sort of cut out smaller pieces of them, and then UV mapped, sort of used little clumps of pixels to kind of project onto the horse to make something that seems like it's higher resolution than it would normally be in this space. It's only 512 pixels, but there are a lot of those pixels repeating. And the walls are sort of glitching around, as you can see. And that's because I sort of doubled the geometry over itself. So there's sort of two planes that are competing with each other in the way that that this is being rendered, and making it sort of twitch and glitch around. And yeah, this is my contribution. It's a sort of little moment inside a much bigger world.
I think we can all see the glitching. I'm trying to pan across it. So if you can't be in world right now, we're in 6067 in Laura Moffatt's cube for MESHfair. But you can see we have the glitching effect that I'm trying to kind of zoom in on, so you can see this if you're joining us by video. Alice, I'd love to bring you in and get your thoughts.
Sure. Thank you so much, Lauren, for giving us a little tour to your work. I think your work you applied with the title "What I May If I'm Small," right? That's yeah. And I think the idea of the limitations that you mentioned, it's quite interesting to me as well, especially. I think when it comes to longer form works, or creating something in a digital realm that might not be, like long enough. So my question to you is, what kind of limitations do you feel when you exhibiting work in like a physical space versus digital, and does it affect your work, and what are you making?
That's a good question. I think that the weight of things and the kind of the weight of things, and also the kind of expense of things, like not just financially, but also physically moving things around or sourcing things. I'm so used to working in 3D environments that to add a light to something is as easy as just sort of like a couple of clicks and a couple of menu navigations. And in physical space, it's much more difficult to kind of get the sort of environmental conditions that I want, because I like to be able to control things like light and like surface qualities of things to quite an extent. You know, this is something that's really important for me as I'm making, and it's quite important for me in the way that people perceive and engage with my work. And so yeah, it's kind of a challenge sometimes, depending on what conditions I'm working in, to be able to do the things that I want to do with a physical space, knowing how easy it would be in a 3D space, I suppose, in a virtual space.
Thank you. And I think horse, it has like such an interesting meaning, coming back to centaur, when people were like didn't recognize humans like on the horses, but they were thinking like of them mythical creatures. And I myself, my first work that I ever made, actually like digital work, was called Webtara, which is like part human, part supercomputer operating inside of the body of robotic horse. And I think, yeah, I'm also curious, why did you decide to choose horse as a figure that represents? Or maybe I missed. Maybe you mentioned that, but I missed that.
No, I didn't actually. The horse, it's part of actually a group of assets that I made while I was sketching for something else recently, and it sort of fits into a kind of a family of basically surrealistic rigs, sort of humanoid rigs. But I kind of like working with horses whenever I'm doing something new, whenever I'm sketching something, because of their history with like Muybridge, and with also kind of the racehorse aspect of art and so on. Horses, for me, it's kind of just an interesting symbol that can mean a few different things, and that also tends to be interesting to work with. Like, you know, the form of a horse is, you know, it's got lots of like geometry that comes out more so than, you know, a human face or something like that. You know, a horse's face is very, it's very easy to identify it in a silhouette or as a contour. So I chose this horse thinking of another work that I made for Mozilla Hubs a few years ago, that was sort of talking about imaging technologies and also about aging, and just sort of decided to have it have the horse kind of recurring in this virtual metaverse space. Yeah.
Kenza, I would love to bring you in here too.
Yeah, it's a very interesting work. Definitely not what I would have thought Lauren would produce, not in a bad way or anything. I was just not expecting this work, just because when you curate, it's a very interesting process. But in general, especially when you don't know the artist, or you just get to know the work of the artist, you usually have, and I guess it's a human thing, but you project your own expectations of what the works could be based on what the artist did before. And I'm so pleasantly surprised with this work, because I have so many questions, and I also have feelings, a lot of feelings. When I just entered the cube, it was discomfort first, and I'm like, okay, why do I feel this sort of discomfort? And I think it's because it reminds me of as if we trapped the creature that we just found, right? And it's like this reverse centaur, and it's now on display for everyone to see in this sort of imaginary museum, and sort of dystopian museum, because there's only one room with this big cage and this creature who seemed trapped and tries to run, but she or it cannot really run away and escape, and everyone is like around it and looking at it, and obviously it has female form, so I am going to identify somehow to this creature and be like, oh, it actually looks like a woman that we're all looking at right now, but it's not the typical woman, so we're even more intrigued about that creature. And I think it's just very relevant to, I don't know, to a lot of things, a lot of topics, actually. How do we display art? What kind of art do we display? How do we connect with art, the art? And how can actually digital art make us feel some type of way? I've had conversation with traditional, or if I may say, collectors who to this day find it hard to connect with digital pieces just because they don't find this physical aspect to it. But to be honest, when I see this type of work, there is such a spatial, like there's like you actually feel you're in a space, and you actually feel like you're looking at something that could really be real. And again, to what I was saying about Linda's work, I find myself in the same type of way. It's like I am in some place that is that I can not touch, but somehow I really feel this tangible aspect to it. And so, yeah, very surprised by the work, but at the same time, so pleasantly surprised, because it still shows your style 100%, in the way that you cut the character, in the way that you display it, and also in the way that I engage with your work. Because when we went to the curation process, your work actually spoke to me because it also brought some sort of discomfort. It was showing those landscape and some sort of settings where organic and physical were all blended together, and there is always a part of dystopian future that I see, and then I find it here again, but in another, some sort of other aspect to it. So your previous work, it's more of a landscape or the environment. Here, it actually is more about art and exhibitions and the future of museum. And I don't know, maybe I'm just rambling, but this is exactly what I think about when I see the work. So yeah, I don't even know if that's something that you had in mind when you created this piece, if you actually saw this sort of the way that it could fit in a museum, basically, and obviously the female form of your character, which I'm sure you put thoughts into. But yeah, fantastic work, really.
Thanks so much. Thanks for all of the thoughts that you had about it. Some of them kind of match with what my intention was, and some of them don't. But I'm really glad that that's sort of something that it does. I'm also really glad that some of the things that I wanted to do with it came through. In the end. Again, it's something so difficult to kind of pack everything into this tiny package that it feels really really good to hear that it actually, you know, still works. You know, it's still possible to transmit something in this sort of tiny package. So thanks so much for all of the thoughts, and thanks for choosing my work, really, again.
So referencing limitations and tiny packages, we're actually halfway through already our time for this talk. I really wish we could have 2 hours to dive into this creative process, but we do have to jump to, we have 2 cubes left. We have Sid's and BJ's. I think we're going to go, I know that Sid, there are a lot of people holding on for your cube right now in terms of defeating the dragon. So I'm actually going to make them wait, if that's okay for you. We're going to jump first to BJ's cube. So if you're waiting for the dragon, you are going to have to bear with us for this. So we're going to jump first to BJ's cube. BJ, as we jump, if you would like to introduce yourself, and also I believe that you have, you know, we kind of know each other, so it'd be really interesting to kind of talk about how you came into this space in the first place and how you got involved with MESHfair. If you're joining us in World, I'm going to put BJ's we should say, BJ, how would you like me to refer to you in a kind of professional setting?
I don't know. BJ is fine. Yeah. My like artist name is Bunny Breaker. And some people call me BJ, some people call me Bunny. Whatever is fine. Yeah. So I know Bay through the art community in Valencia in Spain, and that's also how I know Lauren as well. And Bay asked me about this art project last year to like put on a virtual art show, and I'm a digital artist. I like making all kinds of digital stuff, so I was intrigued. I'd never played around in Decentraland before, so yeah, I submitted a cube last year, and then this year when the open call went out, I thought, like, why not do another one, you know? So yeah, I'm actually in World at the moment. I'm going to teleport to my cube because I didn't even know the coordinates of it. Let's go see.
I think I've got this wrong. I'm double checking. So I was the one that wrote down all these coordinates. Yeah. So I was the one that wrote down all these coordinates in my meshed state. So I am looking to see. So Bunny Breaker, you're in cube 29. I have it wrong on the website. I've got it 6560. I'm going to dive into my special behind the scenes map here to double check my coordinates. Yeah, backstage in the backstage metaverse green room. Okay, as we're waiting to dive in, can you describe kind of, yeah, what is your practice right now? What are you creating?
Okay, so this particular project I wanted to do, since the theme was explore, I wanted to do something about being inspired, because I find that like the inspiration and art process, it all kind of melds together. But like I think sometimes we think of inspiration as being like a slice of time, and just like a thing inspires you, but I think it can also be a very interactive process, and it can come from lots of unexpected places. So the cube I've made, it actually kind of serves as like a mini gallery with lots of maybe not lots, some of my previous pieces, but all of them kind of have a story about their inspiration or how they came to be. And then there are also kind of glitched out test patterns, because I find those inspirational as well. And just I like the aesthetic of like technology going wrong. Oh, okay. I see Bay's in. Bay, what are the coordinates? I want to.
I've dropped them in the chat. The revised coordinates are 6056.
Ah, okay. Let's have a look. Yeah, let me teleport inside my cube so I can
and to say that you were part of our test, the early version of Mesh.
Oh,
so when Mesh
I'm dropping straight out of the cube.
Okay.
This is a good start.
So VJ was part of one of the first test artists that when we came up with this concept back in early last year of creating an art fair for GLB artists. But he was one of my first test cube people that I was running this idea past and saying, okay, is this going to work? Can we create something in 12 by 12 meter floating cubes in the metaverse? And so it's really interesting to see the contrast between your work then and your work now. Are you in the cube and would like to talk us through what we're seeing here?
I can't get in it. My character just keeps falling straight out. This is not what I actually did test it the other day, and it seemed to work. And there are people in there. Okay, I'm going to stop looking at my screen. Tell you what, I will look at your screen, and okay, so like it's kind of not really a maze, but there's like a little kind of pathway you can follow to go around it, and then all of the different screens are either showing artwork or showing like TV test pattern inspired glitch imagery. So all of the artwork actually predates this piece, and then the test imagery glitchy stuff was made just for this one. So yeah, I don't really know how to explain it. It's just lots of screens in a kind of disorganized manner to kind of simulate the idea of like a brainstorm where everything's kind of chaotic, but you're trying to like tie it together to specific ideas. And that's kind of what like, or having all like the discs like strewn about the place, and having all the screens in disarray, because that's sometimes how it feels mentally when trying to be inspired or trying to like generate ideas for how to make something. So yeah, I hope what I guess I hope people get from it is a sense of curiosity and want to look around, and then maybe have some creative inspiration along the way.
Can you describe for us these long columns that are cutting through the space? What do they signify for you?
Yeah, so that's actually a slightly failed attempt at making bamboo, and then it kind of looked more like cables to me, which I was fine with because there were originally supposed to be cables in this piece, and I ran out of time and polygons to actually put the cables in. So yeah, that was an attempt at procedural bamboo in Blender. For anyone that uses Blender, like geometry nodes, it's kind of a way you can procedurally generate almost anything, like if you can think up a process to use it. So I wanted to use geometry nodes to create like a bamboo forest kind of vibe, but like mixed with technology. But then again, I ran out of time, so I wasn't able to refine the bamboo algorithm, but looking like cables suits me fine for this piece.
Alice, can I call you in for your perspective here?
Of course. Nice to meet you, Bonnie. It's a pleasure, and thank you for sharing that. Yes, I think you mentioned the idea that you are trying to explore what happens when something goes wrong with the technology, and
yes.
And the technology was wrong. Yeah, so it really made me think of our relationship with the screens or something behind the screen, and also it really made me think about how we sometimes treat like our online relationships as like real relationships, or a relationship with AI, like trying to expect them to work as human instead of like accepting it for what it is. Yeah. So I think I wonder why screens are, because I'm personally obsessed with the screens, and the exhibition that I'm curating right now, I'm basically transforming into like erotic gym using this poles and having screens on them, and like having digital bodies dancing on the poles, like kind of creating the collective experience instead of we are looking at one person who dances. So the screens, like I think about it quite a lot, that every day we need to deal with the screen. So what is this obsession coming for you, and like why are you interested in that? And also I can see that each screen has like a different artwork, and like maybe you can dig into it a little bit deeper.
Yeah, so I have a similar obsession with screens, mostly because I'm always using one like for work, for my own artwork. Like I really do love physical mediums, but I find digital just so convenient. And like in terms of physical space, like being able to just work on a laptop is great. So I'm always using a screen. But like you said, like our relationships to both online relationships, but technology in general, I feel like can have this really difficult balancing act between like using technology in a kind of healthy and good way, and then having technology kind of affect us in negative ways. So part of having the screens where some of them have artwork and some of them have kind of mess is to like represent when you're trying to like grasp for ideas, and some of them are just duds. Like some ideas are just bad, and that's okay. You have to go through that. But also because my art is somewhat abstract and glitchy, I hope that a few times people see some of the screens and actually have the question of like, wait, is this artwork or is this just a mess? Because I feel like that's part of the joy of making this kind of abstract art, is having these like some experiments that you throw away, but then it's someone else's like favorite piece, or like a piece you've slaved over for weeks, and then people think you just did it in half an hour. Yeah, I'm rambling, but that's my bit about screens.
Kenza, how about you?
I'll try to be quick because I realize that I speak too much sometimes when I'm excited. But this work is quite fun to run around, and I followed the path several times and fell through as well several times. I feel like I'm. It just feels like I'm stuck in a hard drive full of crypto art work. That's how I would describe it. I don't even know if you would describe your practice as, as being crypto art, but that's exactly how I feel, like finding all those works, some of them completely destroyed. It looks like they're all like, how do you say that? Then, sorry, I'm losing my English, but it's like you made them explode and you took a picture. That's how it feels like. But yeah, that's how I would describe it. I think it's fun, and it's a new way of also looking at a new form of abstract work in 3D, and you can just like walk around. I love it. Wonderful.
Thank you. Yeah, that means a lot to me. I'm glad that it gave you some feelings of like the things exploding, because that's kind of a continued motif in a lot of my work. I like real explosions, but explosions and trying to like freeze moments in time is another thing that I kind of like to revisit in a lot of different work. Yeah, thank you.
So again, thank you so much, PJ. Thank you so much, everyone, for these perspectives. If you are joining us, if we're about 800 people right now listening to us live across the different social networks, if you can jump in, we're going to our final tour, the final Mesh Cube of the final tour of MESHfair 2024.
I want to see this dragon.
Yes, we're going to go see the dragon. If everyone can stay with us maybe for 5 minutes longer, we might extend a little bit. So Sid, you have a bit more time to show us around this extravaganza. We're going to be jumping right now to Sid's Cube, which is at 5760. So if you are in the world with us now, a lot of people are holding on to find this dragon. I've had my children asking me today, when are you going to see the dragon? So we are going now. It is 5760 in SidXO's Cube. So we're going to be jumping now. And Sid, as we make the teleport, would you like to introduce ourselves to everyone?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Thanks for inviting me to MESHfair and the talk this evening. I'm SidXO, cultural renegade, awesome creative, master of colourful chaos and solid gold legend. And I have a real love for pop culture and mixing pop culture within the different mediums that I'm involved with. I work in all kinds of different stuff, from acrylics through to hardware and digital stuff. And yeah, I just love to make things that's bright, stunning, things that will bring joy to the world and just uplift people. Things a little bit like the kind of stuff on the wall that you see like really stands out, but if you actually spend a little bit of time on it, there's lots of Easter eggs involved, there's lots of references and lore and lots of works that are intertwined with one another. If you check out SidXO.com, you'll find that you've got all the different themes and stuff on there, and you'll see there's kind of a tie-in between lots of different stuff that I do. So I liked to pull a lot of that into this piece here, and I'm sure you'll probably, if you've had a look around at some of my other works, you'll see how things are kind of been munged together. So yeah, this is quite an exciting time.
And what are we about to see?
So with the theme being exploration, I'm a concrete thinker. I'm very creative, but I'm still a bit of a concrete thinker. So I immediately went into this whole thing about how do we make something that you would explore? And then we're in 3D. So I don't just want to put something on a wall and you walk in a room and you see something on a wall and that's the whole experience, because we could do that here. You could come to my house and I could show you it on the telly. So I much rather wanted you to come into a world with me and for me to share some of who I am and my experiences. And part of that was for me to look at my childhood and to say, if we take from the 90s, the kind of games that I used to play and those exploration things like Death Trap Dungeon and Resident Evil and the Dizzy games, Dizzy Egg, and sort of how you would have to do a thing and you might have to pull a lever and collect something else and put all these little bits together. So there's like this interaction, and then something comes out of that as a result, and then there's another one and another one. And I think what I did, I got a little bit above my station when I started on this, because I had like 3 or 4 weeks of solid work to get this together. And what I'd done is I'd taken the cube and then I'd made this whole world that was this big, and it doesn't go into the cube. So I decided maybe what we should do is we should take all of this 3D poly and chop it all up, and maybe we should layer it, and let's make a 3D cube that you can actually, there's a maze and all these levels involve ladders and stuff like that. And when I put it together, it still didn't fit. It was still too big. So I had all kinds of, I spent a whole week. I love R&D. I love just being so out of my depth that I don't know where to go. And so I have to find a solution. I love problems to solve. And that's a part of just the stuff that I do for a job and naturally gravitate towards. So I decided with this, maybe what we should do is we should create like an Alice in Wonderland effect, where you shrink. And so we shrink everything that I've created right down inside the cube, and everything will fit. And then I came across this massive problem where you can't shrink the people and the avatars and the camera down to the size that I needed to in order to create that experience. And so it then became a little bit of, I got stumped. So then I thought, well, maybe what we could do is make it a little bit more imaginative, and we could change the axes of gravity, and we could make this so that we go all the way up around and we walk the walls, and this maze maybe is built all the way throughout the outside of the walls, and then there's some rooms in the center. And now it's still, I ran into a few different dead ends with all of that. And then I kind of pared it all down from this. I've got a game that was it was about 2 hours long to complete. And it involved so many different object switches and interactions and so much exploration. I think it would have been wonderful to put that out to the world and for people to have gone, right, in my head, I know this is going to take me a long time. But I do feel that in the meta especially, short and sharp is probably quite a nice way of giving people returns, and sort of these little quick interactions are quite helpful, especially we're used to being on these all the time. So we kind of get that dopamine fix really quick, and I wanted to kind of tie into that. So I'd done the R&D for a week. I'd finally come up with a concept of this maze and the labyrinth and that whole game. And then I tied into that the Double Dragon theme. So for the lunar year, there was the 2 princesses, each one from the underworld and one from the overworld, coming together and they battle, and then one of them wins, and for the next 12 years, until the year of the dragon rolls around again, that person's on the throne. And so I wanted to go into the lore of
Sid,
this.
can I pause you with the lore for a second? Because talking with dopamine, I think everyone wants to go inside. So we're going to go. I'm going to go as you're talking, okay? Right.
So yeah, what I did is I set it so that you're not in a room. The room is actually made up of loads of different components that just constantly refresh. I wanted you to still experience what I had designed, and I needed to come up with a solution to the problem. So we created a series of components where when you collide with them, they're invisible, but these 3D components will then move you in space inside the cube, and they'll refresh the whole surroundings and that you're inside, and then kill everything that was there before. And so that keeps the poly count really low. It keeps the number of entities that are constantly being used really low, and just stays within those restrictions, the boundaries that we've got. So yeah, the main event is obviously this. People want to get this 101, don't they? There's a 101 in here somewhere, and all these people are fighting to get it. You've got to find your way through the maze. You then complete the maze. You've got to fight the Guardian, and then there's a puzzle at the end once you've completed this fight against the Guardian. And some of the reflections that came from my own life, so I'm autistic, and I do struggle sometimes with certain interactions and just the way that the world works from my perception. And so I found it really hard to get to where I am, to be in the position that I am, and to have succeeded in a number of different areas in my life. So I wanted to kind of reflect the hard work and effort I've had to put in is what you'll have to do if you want to get the prize. And then we can kind of have an experience together. So in a way, it's immersive in not just the literal, but you're figuratively coming along with me on like an experiential kind of journey. How does all that land?
It's great. You know, I've had the most contact with people about your installation, Sid. Then yes, I have had people emailing and going like, I have been here for 18 minutes fighting this dragon. Is this enough? Can I get the NFT? So I'm just going to start sending you all of these emails.
Yes.
The alpha, I've got people messaging me saying that they want the alpha. How do they get to the dragon, and how do they kill the dragon, please?
Okay, so in order to get to the dragon, you don't need to collect all 12 of the Babrugamu statues in order to get to the dragon, but you do need to unlock all the switches and get through the doors. Once you've got through all the doors, you'll then be in the room with the dragon. But in order to sort of trigger that process, you need to have at least one of the statues. Each statue is kind of like a life or a hit from the dragon. When you get in there in the battle, there's actually these fireballs and stuff that are shooting at you that you've actually got to dodge, and you get these shurikens to kind of fight back. If you manage to slay the dragon, you still have to have 12 statues and go back in the room. So you kind of got to go back out the maze, grab all 12, collect them up again, get back into the room, and then that will unlock you the final puzzle. And I haven't made the final puzzle easy either, but it is easier, I guess, than killing the dragon if you spend a little bit of time on it. So I can give you loads more alpha depending on what the questions are, but that probably would speak for itself in what you need to do in order to complete it. It's not easy.
Alice, I'd love to call you in here as another perspective on this very gamified interactive experience with the dragon and the levels and the levers. How are you finding it so far?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you so much for such a rich introduction and explanation. I think personally, I really like what you said about exploration, and since it's the topic of the fair, what is the best way actually to explore the artwork? And I completely agree that gamified experience actually allow the viewers explore or maybe even deal with some issues. And the fact that you are reflecting on your personal trauma or like personal experience and trying to implement it in the work. I think it's quite interesting. Yeah. Did you have any specific reference? You said that you inspired a lot from the like pop culture and trying to bring it in any of your work. Did you have any specific references for this one?
So what I did is I looked at the core. If you look at the roots of anime, the huge paintings, the huge Japanese paintings, that kind of gave me my core theme, because Double Dragon is based on that style. And so looking at then, if we're in that mode, let's kind of Japanify everything. So I tried to twist things a little bit into more of a Japanese theme throughout the whole world, essentially, and that's how we ended up with where we are right now. You do have a couple. There's the reference there where you've got the underworld, the generals and the princess and stuff on the back wall there, and then the Babrogamus reflecting. Obviously, that's the one of one as a texture, just to kind of say, look, here's your little carrot, go get it.
Thank you.
Kenza.
Yeah, I've been clicking on all of the walls to see if I can open doors. This is great. I think it's I have 5 nephews, and I'm just thinking this is a great way to get them to appreciate art while also playing. I love that, and I've they play Roblox, they play Minecraft, all of those virtual worlds, and I just think obviously Decentraland is maybe more tailored for us from the art world, but this is actually a good way to get a younger generation to appreciate art and play with it a little bit, because even I am having a great time picking up the sculptures. I got 2, but yeah, I just love that, and I'm just thinking about how actually metaverses and those virtual worlds can actually help bring new experience for like the younger generation, interacting with art, and new ways of experimenting with digital art as well, and experiencing digital art. So yeah, very lovely project, very fun too.
Awesome, thanks.
Sid, I am going to send you all these emails. You think I'm joking, but no, they're going to come your way. We've got people we've got people asking in the chat right now about how they go through. So if you could reply as we're going through this process as well, that would be amazing, because so much interest in this.
Can I add something to that? I popped back in. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Kim.
I'm managing all the social media during Art Week, and Sid, I must say, the comments and the commentary of people being like, okay, where is the dragon? How do I find this? Has been a lot of fun, and the community is having a good time. I was actually logged in at like 11 p.m. PST last night, and I saw 2 community members trying to figure it out, and they were like, okay, follow me. I'm going to take you through. We'll do it together. And I just wanted to say thank you for creating something that had that kind of collaborative spirit in it. The community didn't get competitive with one another. They actually tried to help one another. And I thought that was really an interesting way to see how they integrated with the art. So just popping in for that part.
That's wonderful. Thanks.
Now, I'm concerned we are coming up we're past time, but we're just going to have, I think, just one closing thought from everyone to bring this final tour of MESHfair 2004 to an end before we get to our awards gala at 10 p.m. UTC, when the Decentraland Prize is going to be awarded to 3 of our artists from MESHfair. So if you're dying to know and interested into who is going to be awarded this first edition of the Decentraland Prize, do join us again in World at 10 p.m. UTC in just over 4 hours time to get the voting, which I was not part of. This is definitely something from Decentraland Foundation, looking at the most innovative cube in MESHfair this year. But to bring this talk to a close, and I am absolutely thrilled to have you all here as part of this and part of MESHfair. Could you tell me in 1 or 2 sentences, what was the most surprising thing for you about your involvement with MESHfair Edition 2 in this year, and kind of, yeah, what was it that surprised you most about the process or the practice? Lauren, could I bring you in first?
What was most surprising about it? Well, I mean, I have to say that when I saw all of this amazing work that all of the other artists did, I was pretty blown away. Like, especially people like Sid, who kind of really extended what you can do inside the cube outside of these four walls. So it's just amazing. I was so inspired by what all of the other artists did. I think I've checked all of the cubes now, and they're really stunning. I was imagining that would be the case, that I would find really great artists and really great artworks, but I wasn't prepared for how amazing some of the work is, and what you can really do within this world. Thanks so much again.
No, you're welcome. Linda, how about you? Are you still with us?
Yes, I am still with you. Surprising about this year. I think I'm a little bit with Lauren on this. I think that this year seemed a huge event. Last year was huge too, but I think the number of curators that we had, and probably I think the number of artists is bigger too. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
Yeah,
it does seem like a bigger, more major, more art-oriented event. I don't know. It just feels like we're quite an art community here, and all realms of art. And I think that's fantastic. I don't know if it's surprising.
BJ, how about you?
Sorry, we were both muted. Sorry. Okay. I mean, I hate to say it, but like, I also was really surprised at just how people have extended. Like, you know, you have a 12 by 12 cube, and then people are making like infinite mazes. And the one we saw on the tour yesterday with all the cubes floating around that seemed like infinite in space.
Did by Kenza.
I've been. Yeah. I've just been really surprised at like the quality of the work, but also just the innovation with working within the limitations.
Thank you, Sid.
It's so inspiring seeing everybody. So I'm sorry to interrupt you. It's so inspiring. Just artists love seeing other artists' work, and I think that because there are so many artists in this project that are so doing work differently from everybody else, you know, we just love looking at all your works because they are so different from what we do and what we would never do. So yeah, I love that, you know, artists can inspire each other in that way.
Virtually, I feel like we've got not really, there's not much in terms of limitation. So your time, money, and resources. If you wanted to exact these ends in the RL, how on earth are you going to start? Like, where is the warehouse that we can stick this in? Where are the spaces that we can physically put all of this stuff in? How much is it going to cost? Who are we going to hire to build it all? You know, the time and resource involved. And yet, if we can convert this to 3D and make wonderful experiences where people can chuck on the Oculus and wander around in a world and interact with stuff, and it's cost a developer for a few days. Look at the savings that we've got, and yet the ability to be able to do more than you can in the RL. I love it. This is my first immersion here. So, you know, intro, I'm loving it.
I'm so glad. Alice, how about you?
I think from the curatorial point of view, it's very interesting to see like 70 application, and then you like picking 5, for example, and see how the artists are applying like one specific idea, but then they have the possibility to expand this idea within the environment. I think that's really interesting because like looking at Lauren's, for example, submission, and then looking at the cube is like something completely surprising and like unexpected in a good way. And also, I think it's interesting to see how actually Decentraland can, and artist engagement and cubes can serve to the community building. I think that's really interesting too.
It's really interesting you message that. Thank you. That gives me a really good prompt to message and say thank you to everybody in the community that's been so supportive of MESHfair this year. We have just had so much support, so much enthusiasm, so much work in terms of everyone that's helped develop, create, install, deploy, bug fix. So just a huge shout out at this stage to everyone in Decentraland and the wider community that's been part of both MESHfair and also Decentraland Art Week. Kenza, how about you?
Yeah, I share a similar feeling to Alice. I just think when we went through the curation process, I didn't think I would experience this type of art somehow, or at least like feel what I felt today, which sounds very cheesy, but it is very true. Like the way that those artworks convey feelings is a surprise to me. I haven't been to a lot of virtual worlds, at least not in a long time. I remember creating an exhibition in Crypto Voxels, and it was a different very different environment, very different way of creating and exhibiting works. But yeah, I've really enjoyed the process. Beautiful works. I will stay or maybe come back actually to check out the other cubes. But yeah, I think you've done an amazing job, putting this together, and I want to congratulate all of the artists and even the ones who just send their application. I think honestly, it was really difficult because a lot of those works were amazing and the pitches were like so good. So I just want to congratulate everyone for the effort and for the final works as well. And thank you so much for inviting me to curate and for this lovely conversation.
Thank you, everyone. We're going to have to bring it to a close. It has been an absolute pleasure. Massive thank you to everyone that's been involved on the live tours, the 5 live tours we've had at MESHfair this year. You can find all the recordings at Decentraland's YouTube in the live section. And I look forward to seeing you all at the awards gala in 4 hours' time at Decentraland 6161. Huge thank yous to Sid, Kenza, Lauren, BJ, Alice, and Linda for joining us in our final tour. Thank you so much, everyone, and goodbye. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.